UGC NET paper 1 seems to be a tough nut to crack. Not able to identify what to study, what to leave because too much of syllabus and too less of time. So with the right planning in the right direction, you can easily crack UGC NET paper 1. Hi everyone, I am Megha and welcome to UGC NET with Megha. In this video series, I am going to summarize each and every unit of paper 1 UGC NET in order to simplify it and also in order to give you the areas which you need to focus more on, because these are the areas from where generally the questions are asked unit wise respectively. So the very first topic or the unit that we are going to take up in this video series is unit communication. And in this we are going to understand all the sections or all the areas from where these questions are generally asked. First is the meaning or the definition of communication. It can be given in any form and you have to identify whether the definition is correct or not. So basically we can say communication is nothing but a process wherein we exchange our ideas, thoughts or beliefs. So simply अगर हम कहें तो एक दूसरे से बात करना या जो हमारे दिमाग में चल रहा है उसे एक्सप्रेस करना communication है. Right now if you are listening to this video, then it is also a type of a communication. Now coming to the next heading from where the questions are asked is the functions of communication. So basically what are the functions of communication, or we can say in what areas does communication help us. So communication helps us in providing information. It also helps us in passing on the instructions. It is very useful in entertainment. That is, without communication we cannot entertain ourselves. And in the same way for debates and discussions also the key factor is communication. The next topic from where the questions are generally asked is the elements that are involved in the process of communication. So the elements are sender, the person who sends the message, encoding, that is deciding upon what to be communicated, message is the actual content that is sent, and then the channel is the medium through which the message is sent, receiver is the person who receives the message or to whom the message is sent, decoding is interpretation of the message, and lastly is the feedback, that is the review of the receiver. The next area from where the questions are generally asked are the characteristics of communication. The very first characteristic is context, which is related with the 5 W's and 1 H, which are as follows: when, where, whom, what, why, and lastly how. Next is accuracy, that is to the point. Your message should be to the point. And the next characteristic is understanding, that is the message should be understandable. That means a common basis should be there between the sender and the receiver. The next is empathy, that means you should be considerate and sympathetic towards the feelings and the sentiments of the receiver. Effective listening is another characteristic, that is equal participation is required from the receiver, that is he should listen to the message carefully, only then the process is complete. Another characteristic feature of communication is multi-channel, that is you can communicate in various ways. You can communicate either by writing or speaking or by use of signs as well. Communication is a two-way process, that is the sending and the receiving both should be done, and the receiver when properly listens to the message and gives a feedback, then only the entire process gets completed. And lastly, the body language, that is how you are talking is very important. If you are putting your hands folded, that means you are not interested in what the sender or the person who is giving the message is speaking. So your body language is again very important for effective communication. The next area from where the questions are generally asked are the different types of communication. You are given the definition and you are asked to identify that what type of a communication is. The different types of communications are as follows: direct or natural communication. Next is indirect or technological communication. Then next is intrapersonal, interpersonal, group communication, mass communication, public communication, intercultural communication, impersonal communication, formal communication, informal or grapevine communication, contiguous communication, and lastly non-contiguous communication. The next section is communication context. First is physical, which answers where. Social context answers whom. Temporal context answers when. Cultural context answers what. And historical context answers why. And lastly, how. The forms of communication is another area from where the questions are asked. First is verbal communication, wherein we use words to communicate. Next is non-verbal. When I do like this, that means I am asking somebody to come here. So that is a gesture. So by gesture or signs or symbols, when we communicate, it is a non-verbal communication. Then there is graphical or symbolic communication, and lastly there is written communication. The next is components of non-verbal communication. First is kinesics. Kinesics is nothing but the use of body movement, including gestures, facial expressions, and other physical movements for communication purposes. The next is occlusis. It is basically the role of eye contact in a non-verbal communication. Chronemics refers to the study of the use of time in non-verbal communication. Then proxemics is the technical term for the personal space aspect of the body language, that is the proximity, how far you are standing from a person or how close you are standing from a person determines that what kind of a communication you are having with that person. Haptics refers to the study of non-verbal communication by touch, just like handshake, a pat on somebody's back. And lastly, paralanguage. So paralanguage is nothing but the variation or modulation in your volume, pitch, and in some cases intonation of speech as well. So if you are happy or you are excited about something, you are like, oh my God. And if something terrible happens, you're like, oh my God. So this is known as paralanguage. Next we are going to talk about is the characteristics of effective communication. These are also known as the 7 C's of communication. First is completeness, that is the message should be complete. Conciseness, that is to the point. Clarity, clear enough for the other person to understand. Correctness, that is there should not be any ambiguity or any incorrect information. Then consideration, you should be considerate about the other person, his feelings and his sentiments. Courtesy, that is the message should have basic gestures and it should not be like accusing or it should not be outrightly rude. And lastly, concreteness, that is your message should be based on certain facts and figures and should be verified if you are quoting some facts and figures. The next topic that you should prepare under this unit from exam point of view is classroom teaching, the characteristics of effective classroom teaching and the channels of classroom communication and learning. So there are particularly 3 channels. First is downward. It is in this the communication flow is from the teacher to the student. In upward communication, the flow is from student to the teacher. And in horizontal channel or horizontal communication, the conversation is among the students itself. The next topic is barriers to communication. So there are a lot of barriers, and simply by barriers we mean the disruption or interruption in the process of communication. So the barriers are physical barriers, semantic barriers, organizational barriers, psychological barriers, social barriers, cultural barriers, psychological barriers, physiological barriers, perceptual barriers, sender-oriented barriers, receiver-oriented barriers, and lastly channel-oriented barriers. So some of these barriers are covered in detail in my another video on barriers to communication. The link for the same is coming up here. You can watch this video and get the understanding of barriers to communication. The last topic from this unit from where the questions are asked is mass media and society. So mass media and society play an important role in the process of communication, because as a result of which a large number of people can be reached or a large number of people can get the message at the same time. So now we are going to discuss the types of mass media. First is the traditional. So traditional are the methods wherein the paintings in the caves, the scriptures written by the medieval man and all that, and also it includes the letters or the telegram or the telegraph messages. All these are the traditional types of mass media communication. Then next is print media. So print media simply means the books, novels, the newspapers, magazines, etc., which pass on a social message or any sort of news or information. Then electronic media, which includes mediums through which the messages are communicated, like television, internet, through which the masses can be made aware about a particular topic or any information can be passed on to masses. Then there are new methods or the new types of mass media communication, which includes all the mobile phones, the social media, etc. Next, if we talk about the functions of mass media, so the functions of mass media is to give social message, provide information to people, enhance knowledge of the masses, and also to make the people aware what is going on around in the entire world. And also with the help of mass media, we can entertain ourselves. That is, the people on large scale can be entertained with the help of mass media. So there are few sources of mass media, or we can say through which generally the information is given to masses. First is the radio. So the broadcasting on radio is one of the common sources. Right from the old times till now, radios are being used to pass on lot of information. Then films are the major source of entertainment for the people all around the globe, as well as films give us a lot of social messages as well. Then wireless communication, so the present day communication that we are doing, that's it, right, sitting from anywhere in the world, we can communicate to any person anywhere in the world without any time foundation, etc. is best example of wireless communication or wireless mass media communication particularly. And lastly, favorite of all of us, that is social media, that is Facebook, WhatsApp, Instagram, that we use in our daily lives. And with one single WhatsApp message, you can make thousands of people aware of a particular situation. So to sum it up, we talk about the first section, that is the basics of communication. Not many questions are asked, but then as per the trends, 1 or 2 questions in every attempt has been asked from this area. The major area of focus is the effective communication and characteristics of communication and barriers of communication. So majority of the questions are asked from this area. And lastly, after barriers and effective communication, the next area of focus is the mass media and society, wherein apart from the basic questions, there are certain general questions also which have been asked from this area, like which was the first black and white movie, or which was the first movie ever made, or first radio channel, when was the print media introduced, printing press, the first printing press, etc. So these are the few general questions that you need to prepare on your own. That was all for this video. Thank you for watching this video, and if you want me to cover any particular topic, you can leave your comments in the comment section below. And don't forget to like, share and subscribe. And for more details on our online course, visit our website www.ugcnetwithmegha.com, and the link for the website is given in the description below. And for regular updates, follow us on our social media handles.